I don't know what's in my moral compass, but I feel like I've gotten a very good feedback system going on where I think I'm able to create my own images that talk about my own personal experiences and talk about my own gender journey through South Texas. I'm Joey Gonzales, a printmaker, artist, ceramicist. I've been doing art for about 6 or 7 years now, consistently as a professional practice. And I think I've been creative all of my life. Before your time. I definitely decided to pursue it as like a full-time major about 3 years ago. So I took my first drawing class here and I was like, I definitely have to pursue this more professionally rather than as a hobby, so that way I can like actually immerse myself in the creativity, in artistry, so that way I can develop a visual language, you know? Something that I wasn't really accustomed to in growing up here in Corpus. Like I said, I've always been creative, but it's not really something that's like pushed for whenever we're telling kids to go out and get a job. Most people are like, you know, go into the oil field or do medical things. And those all have their places, sure. But art is definitely one of those things that isn't thought too fondly of or pushed for kids. I think that it was a hobby, one way to like release stress or to think about. I really thought about art as like this meditative practice, right? Very similar to praying or very similar to like a religious experience. Because I mean, look at what I'm doing right now. I'm making all of these tiny marks in a very particular way that is very similar to when someone prays the rosary, right? You don't pray the rosary out of order. You have a process that you follow, and you continue to do that process until you get the image that you want. And so for me, I decided to take it more professionally once I started Texas A&M Corpus. All of my life, there have been moments where we've like moved, but for most of my adulthood and most of my adolescence has been here, my childhood. I've lived in all different parts of Texas, RGV, Houston, but we've always come back to Corpus for some reason. I think that what I'm realizing now is that Corpus has always definitely been fun, but there have been certain factors that have like held me back from having said fun. And I only say that because I think in particular of like my own familial trauma or like my own gender experience here, like there are just so many things that like you can't experience as a queer person in South Texas that you would be able to in any other big city or like space that is safe for queer people. And I'm not saying every big city is like made specifically for queer people, but I think that there are more resources available and there is greater attention to the care for queer, lesbian, gay, trans people. Yeah, and I laugh because it's a really funny story. One of the first art pieces that I did was a mural of the Tom Brown bear back in like 2011. So Tom Brown is the middle school I went to, and my 8th grade art teacher really saw that like I was getting involved with the wrong people. So one way that she had separated me from them was giving me more like creative liberty. And she let me do this huge like butcher paper size Tom Brown bear like head logo. And I finished it. It took me like the entire week to do so. Next thing you know, she tells the principal there. The principal is like, oh my God, I need to see that. Well, me thinking, oh my God, yes, my art is being recognized by the principal. He asked me if they can use it at a pep rally. I say, absolutely. I come back next week, or the week after, and I'm like, hey, you know, where's my Tom Brown bear mural? And he's like, oh, well, we used it. I was like, what do you mean we used it? He tells me that the football team ripped through it during a pep rally, and that was, I had to learn loss, I had to learn creating just to create, all in those few weeks. So I think that was my earliest memory with the art. A lot of my influences are from like local people. I've met either Ricardo Ruiz, which is he's a local painter and artist who does a lot of like South Texas narration of his own like personal experiences in life and journey. I also think of Carmen Lomas Garza, who is a phenomenal painter. Her influence on me has like, she's really been someone to like transform the thinking of my art as a practice. I've never met her. She's still on the list of people I need to meet, but she's definitely someone that I would like love to just chat and have a conversation with. Art definitely has a role in organizing. You know, I'm immediately thinking of whenever I was doing the screen printing demo at the People's Assembly, and you know, we made literally like 50 to 70 bags within like those couple of hours, and I think one thing that day really taught me was I can fail in front of people and still be okay, and the world wouldn't end. I think that people just need to be more, maybe this is callous, but I think people need to be a bit more accepting of failure rather than expecting perfectionism consistently. Because expecting perfection is kind of insane. There has to be some leeway in terms of creation. But yes, I definitely think art has a communal aspect. But I don't think we as a community have many examples of that. I think one way that we can literally do that is either more murals or maybe like more community art events. I'm specifically thinking of the community the community event that created the tile mural underneath the freeway at the Antonio Garcia Center, or near the Antonio Garcia Center on Agnes and Crosstown. You know, that was a day in which people were able to create their own tiles and leave their own mark in their community, right? And I think people just need to see more ways that they can be involved in their community, or like see themselves in their own community. Because I think it's easy to see yourself at home, but seeing yourself involved in your own community, that's totally different. Art is a very social practice, you know, like I feel like movies don't do artistry justice whenever we talk about the isolated artist who is alone in their studio that only practices with, you know, just themselves. I think art is definitely like a collaborative, very much like you're playing on a team, but your team is the rest of the world, you know? And what I mean by that is like, if you're just stuck in your own little studio, you're not necessarily going to get the feedback that you need to make maybe like a very successful piece. Maybe you think what you're making is the greatest image in the world, and to someone else it's just a red circle on a page. And that's okay. You can definitely make that. But I just think that, you know, in order for us to actually like invest in the arts, there has to be like a community investment as well. Like people have to also buy into it, because then what is the difference between you making art and Target making a cup that says, I don't know, best boss alive? Because I'm sure someone thought that was the greatest idea out there. But yeah. And also it allows you to hear what other people think, like say if you're going for a particular message. I know for me, like one thing that I like to discuss in my work is gender or sexuality. And if I just stayed in my studio and didn't really get feedback, I think that a lot of the work I would be making would not be what I'm making now. I feel like I've definitely elevated my practice from making work that didn't have a lot of description to now is filled with narration and filled with storytelling that allows people to project their own personal experiences onto a body of work. But I couldn't have got that far without that communal practice, or that communal aspect. Taking my first few classes here really just opened up my ability to create, and then after that, I think what really helped me start creating towards more specific social justice causes was whenever I started working in the nonprofit world. Started becoming an organizer, started actively paying attention to how the city funds creative projects around here. I think after that's when I was wait, I can use my art to not only better my portfolio, but as a way to resist the terrible industry or the terrible corporations that are propped up here. You have the oil and gas industry funding our mural festival every year, and that's a recent thing. It's really unfortunate because, if the city were to have put that money up themselves, if they were to invest in the arts themselves, I think you would have a lot more local artists maybe participating, and you would have work that directly reflects the community rather than just some random animals that now cover the side of a building. So. I think there are two pockets of people. I think there's the community artists, and then I think there are the artists who are beholden to certain corporations or maybe industry. Specifically, I'm thinking about I mentioned the mural festival every year. Also thinking about the way that certain art organizations take money from big corporations as well. And those corporations have ties to destroying the environment. Or if you want to work in the arts, you kind of have to choose, you know, like you're either going to be working for an entity that ultimately kicks money back to big industry, or, you know, you are going to work outside of those means and you're going to be very limited in local funding for art projects. If you make art and you're public about it, there are many people that are interested, but it just depends on what interest you're gaining, what messages you're putting out there. Because you can easily fall into like the echo chamber of yes people, right? Like, I would definitely love to see more communal investment. I know that the Garcia Center and the Art Museum are very open about their communal engagement. You know, they have a lot of good programs that center community. I think that that's great. I think that that is definitely a net positive. But what I would like to see more of would maybe be like community-driven art initiatives. So maybe, for instance, there's a specific park that you want to see like a community garden in, right? Well, how can we make that community garden look a lot prettier? Or maybe how can we use native plant life to make inks, or how can we use that same native plant life to make paper even, right? Like, all of these things are very accessible means of art making, but it's not well funded because the city is too busy funding projects that distract people from what's really going on around them. You know, if I haven't seen the city put money towards a community mural in a community garden. I haven't seen the city put any money towards a community art project in a minute, actually. The last one that I'm thinking of is the shitty sidewalk on 6 Points that the news raved about, and Paulette had like a little like catwalk moment. She was like, oh my god, this is the pinnacle of art in Corpus Christi. And I was like, girl, I guess. I think it's a real shame that, you know, we don't have a lot of art projects that center the city interest of like different communities around here, you know, because I'm sure that the West Side or people in District 2 would love to be a part of, you know, more art campaigns, but as the city would say, we are so limited in our resources. But I think that that's BS. I think that they have the resources to say and do whatever they want, but they won't put money towards these community art projects. Working with materials like from Home Depot or for Lowe's, you know, these materials are like very accessible, and so I think like for me that accessibility is what allows me to continue to make in my own like private space, because I feel like, you know, whatever you're making for either an organization or a corporation, you're kind of beholden to whatever their messaging is, right? And so if you're able to do your own images through your own means, then you're able to produce whatever you want. And so if you want to say fuck the system through a print like this, you can. More people need to do that. Seize the means to produce their own work.